All right, let's talk about the house system now. Okay, so we talked about, I'm going to talk too much detail about the planets, but the house system is dealing with the 12 sections of the sky. All right, so when you think about the houses, just imagine a big ring in the sky with 12 different sections, and each section corresponds to a different part of the body. Okay, with me? Cool. All right, so you're dealing with the first house, you're dealing with an area of the sky that's ruled by the planet Mars. Okay, and it corresponds to the head or the cerebrum, which is a higher mind. That's what Aries is about. So the first house is ruled by Mars. It's, again, it's dealing with the head anatomically. The second house is ruled by Venus. Um, and it also deals with the cerebellum, which is the smaller mind, or the part of the mind that corresponds to the five senses. Well, the second house is an earth sign, it's an earth house, and it deals with the material plane. You know, the Taurus field or the Taurus plane is what it's talking about, Taurus, which is the second house. Now, the third house is Gemini, which is ruled by Mercury, and it deals with the shoulders, the arms, the lungs, anything dealing with dual. Talking about Gemini, obviously with the twin signs, whatever, but it's dealing with brotherhood. It's ruled by Mercury, so most Gemini people are very intellectual. You know, not necessarily intelligent, but intellectual nonetheless, because it's ruled by Mercury. Okay, so the fourth house is ruled by the Moon. Okay, ruled by the Moon, and it deals with the stomach and the breasts mainly. You know, it deals with the expansion and contraction of the water in the body. You know, that's what the fourth house is all about, in the moon. And, you know, there's the moon phases and the cycle, the women's cycle is set to the moon, you know. So all that is dealing with the fourth house. And like I say, anatomically speaking, it's dealing with the breasts or, you know, the water in the stomach, so to speak. And then the fifth house, you have the house of Leo or whatever. It's ruled by the sun, and it corresponds to the heart and the spine and the spleen. So, not so much the spleen, but the heart and the spine. You know, I got ahead of myself with the spleen. So, yeah, that's the fifth house. Ruled by the sun. Again, it's Leo. The sixth house is Virgo, and it is ruled again by Mercury, but this time it corresponds to the small intestine. So most Virgo people will have stomach problems if they eat things that they shouldn't be eating. You know, we all have stomach problems, but Virgo people especially, it can knock them on their ass. So Virgo people need to be careful about what they eat because they rule the small intestine and the stomach. So, and again, that's the sixth house. It's ruled by Mercury as well. So what you eat has a lot to do with your intelligence because you have the mind up here and you have a mind in your stomach. You have a brain in your stomach, and that's where Mercury and Virgo comes to. You know, the gut feeling or the gut instinct. You know, that's Virgo. Okay, and then you got the next house, which is the seventh house, which is Libra. You know, it's the house of balance, and it's also ruled by Venus, and it corresponds to the kidneys. So most Libra people, they definitely need to make sure that they keep clean water in their system and filtering their system out, and it shows on their skin, their face. Like for a Libra person who's they don't drink a lot of water, they're deprived of water, you'll see it in their face. It's just how it is. It takes a toll on their bodies because they rule the kidneys. And again, that's the seventh house, and it's the house of balance. And you know, kidneys filter out everything in the body, so you know, it's just one of those things. Now, the eighth house is Scorpio's house. It is ruled by Mars. Some people tell you it's ruled by something else, but I'll say Mars because it is what it is. Ruled by Mars, and it deals with the genitals and the regenerative principle in us all. So it rules that area of the body, and it's the eighth house, and that's why I always refer to the eighth house as the house of sex, because it rules the genitals. And you know, if you talk to any Scorpio person, if they're being honest, Scorpio people love some sex more than other people in the zodiac. Everybody loves sex, but Scorpio is on another level. Okay, so and then you have We get into the ninth house, which is a house of Jupiter. Jupiter rules the ninth house, and it's Sagittarius' house. And that is about the higher mind intellect. But it also rules the thighs. It's also about travel and the thighs. The ninth house is dealing with the thighs and travel. And Sagittarius people, anybody will tell you, Sagittarius people love to travel. And if they can't, they want to travel mentally. And unfortunately, a lot of them, they get psycho and they start traveling inside their mind, and it's not necessarily a good thing. But that's again dealing with Jupiter in that ninth house. Okay? Again, that corresponds to the thighs. The ninth house is to the thighs and the legs, the upper legs and the thighs. And then you have the 10th house, which is Saturn's house, which is Capricorn. And that corresponds to the knees. So dealing with Capricorn, and it's actually the bones and the knees. It's the whole physical structure of the human body. That's what Capricorn represents. So, and again, that's the 10th house. It's ruled by Saturn, and it deals with the knees and the bones and the structure of the human being altogether. And okay, so the 11th house is the house of Aquarius. Again, it's ruled by Saturn as well. It's the only two houses that's ruled by consecutive rulers, which is Saturn. And that's on the same axis with Cancer and Leo. That's why Saturn and it's so important to understand what's going on with Saturn being on the same axis with the sun and moon. So, but it's Aquarius, and Aquarius rules the shins, or the leg, the lower part of the leg, below the knees but above the feet. That's Aquarius, and again, it's ruled by Saturn, and it is the house of astrology. Like, we're in the Aquarian age now, so astrology is going to become prevalent. Catch on now, or you can wait and be behind the times. But it's we're in that age where astrology is definitely comfortable in its own house, which is the house of Aquarius in the 11th house. Okay, and then you got the final house, which is the 12th house, which corresponds to Pisces and the feet. And again, this is ruled by Jupiter. Another house is ruled by Jupiter. Like the 9th and the 12th houses are ruled by Jupiter. So that's why it's so important for the legs and the feet, Yeah, I said the 9th and the 12th house. The 12th house is ruled by Jupiter as well as Pisces, and it deals with the feet anatomically. So when you see the zodiac wheel, you can see that Aries and Pisces are right on top of each other. And that metaphorical line that you cross from Pisces to Aries, that is the needle in the haystack, or that is what Passover is celebrated. It's in the spring, always. So you gotta understand, crossover from Pisces into Aries, it starts to cycle over again, and yeah, that's where we find ourselves back at the starting point. And it's something that happens over and over and over again. So when you're dealing with the houses now that you understand anatomically what we're talking about, so when you have these planets in these particular locations, that's what gives you your personality. And some of these planets are at their detriment in some of these locations, and some of these planets they exalt. And it just simply means they're at their weakest or at their strongest. Like Mars exalts in Capricorn, Saturn exalts in Libra, Jupiter exalts in Cancer, and anything that exalts in that place, you got to know the opposite of that axis is where it's going to be at its detriment. So this is how it is. When you say Jupiter exalts in Cancer, it must be at its detriment in Capricorn, because that's the same axis. So, and you can do that with every planet. Go around the board, and that's really what gives you makes up your real personality. It's not, my sun is I'm a Leo. No, that's not even close to who you are. And unfortunately, in the Western world, most people don't even know about the house system. They don't understand that that's where these things are taking place. These orbs are placed here for a reason. That you have life lessons. You incarnated and had these energies in these places for a reason. And it's for you to learn these life lessons before you can move on. And that's the importance of tropical astrology. It's the blueprint to this existence, and it allows you to learn life lessons without having to question anything. It's you, it's the blueprint to you. So again, in these 12 houses, they deal with the 12 cranial nerves. And the 10, the X, is always the one that's corresponding to Saturn, and it's the one that deals with the senses and So you have to look at the brain and the cranium to see exactly what I'm talking about. But you gotta understand, each one of these 12 sections in the sky corresponds to an area of your skull, your brain, or one of the 12 cranial nerves. And then that also gives you who you are. Okay, so let me give you an example. Let's see, something unique to my chart. I have a stellium in the 12th house in Sagittarius. Jupiter, Neptune, and Uranus. So a stellium is when 3 or more planets are in one sign. And that gives you a special energy depending on where that's located. So the 12th house is the collective consciousness. And then with me having Jupiter, Uranus, and Neptune, that's my imagination and my consciousness, along with Jupiter, expanding planet in the 12th house. So when it comes to me knowing all this esoteric knowledge and diving deep and getting into the dark mysteries of things, that's because that's the energy that I carry. I have a stellium in that location that gives me that intuitive ability to tap in and get into that kind of stuff. So if you have a stellium in your chart, which is 3 or more planets in one sign, then that means that you have there's a special energy there that you can use to guide you in this lifetime. So again, just a brief explanation of the houses, man. There's so much that goes into them. Again, like the 10th house is the house of the public in the public domain. So if you have planets in the 10th house, chances are you're gonna have to express that energy in a public manner for you to really find balance in that energy. That makes sense? So, so you have something in the 6th house. The 6th house is a house of servitude. It's a house of doing things. It wants to serve others. That's just a natural thing of Virgo. They're of service. A lot of Virgos are cooks. They don't want to teach you. They want to kick knowledge to you because they want to serve you for real. They really want to serve humanity. That's naturally a Virgo thing. So those are just 2 examples of the 10th house and the 6th house and how it corresponds to us and what we do with these energies. But yeah, man, those are the houses. Basic description of the houses, man. And again, when these different orbs go into the houses and these planets, man, these energies turn into different things. So you gotta look at it like the planet is by itself, and then you have the zodiac sign is like the costume you put on the planet, and then the house is where it goes to take place. That's how you think about it. Yep.